All right, welcome to the latest edition of the FPL America podcast. This is David Smith.
Travis Hoig.
Brian Shesko.
Gentlemen, we are coming off an American holiday this weekend. We celebrated Thanksgiving this past week, where the United States of America are giving thanks to seceding from the mother country.
Oh, is that what it is?
No, I don't know. I can't even remember. I guess we were thankful for the Indians sharing us food and provisions as we were not even a country, and it was
about to die.
early days, and we were all about to die because we couldn't take care of ourselves.
Thanks for the maize.
Absolutely.
M-A-I-Z.
Anyways, our country's turned into a celebration, really, where we get together with family. I was in Georgia this past weekend.
Did you guys dress like pilgrims?
We did not dress like pilgrims, but I have a very large family. There was a lot of nieces and nephews around. I got to see my, oftentimes we reference him in this pod, brother Matt. Got to spend some time with him as well.
Condolences
and,
for that.
got to do all the family things. So it was a fantastic time. One bad part about it was I had to drive back, and I didn't think it would be as bad because it felt like that the holiday traffic would disperse itself over the 3 days after Thanksgiving, thinking that coming back Sunday wouldn't be that big of a deal. But as I was horribly wrong, a drive that normally takes about 9 hours with a stop for lunch turned into 11 and a half hours, and it was absolutely brutal. Interstate 85. God bless anyone who's got to go on 85 right now.
No one wants to do that.
You got to go through Atlanta, got to go through Charlotte, and both spots, and then even Greenville, Spartanburg, just brutal trying to get through there. So, anyways, that's me just complaining. I also was able to experience some very good and very bad American football, as it was rivalry weekend. It was, for all those across the pond, it was as American college football, American football.
Oh, yeah. A lot of rivalry.
It was Derby weekend.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right? I mean, let's relate that to the world that we normally are discussing. A lot of good games, a lot of pride on the line, a lot of there was fights, there was pepper spray, there was tear gas because people wanted to plant their flag on opposing's
America.
Yeah, it's America loves Brian. We love violence, I guess. Is we can just go there maybe in all acts of life. I mean, within reason,
more or less.
So. All that being said, it was a fantastic American football weekend, especially on the college side. Not so much so if you're an Ohio State Buckeye fan, as I am. Wow.
Are you going to cry?
Yeah, it's still hard to digest, losing 10 to 13 to the hated rivals, Michigan. And Michigan deserved the win. Ohio State did not deserve to win. They played they played bad. They played as bad as City is playing right now. 13-10, if that helps put it in perspective.
But not as bad as the Bears.
13-10 is like a 1-1 draw.
Bad draw. It's like a 1-1 bad draw.
A draw where you...
But not really.
It's like Liverpool playing...
They lost.
It's like Liverpool
right? So
playing Southampton.
It's more like a 2-1 where the second goal is scored in like extra time.
Yeah, I guess.
And the second half.
Or that they miss field goals, which is the equivalent of missing, for the most part, missing penalties.
We've already stretched this analogy way too far.
Bottom line is, it was an interesting American...
It was boring.
It's just
terrible.
what I was going to say.
And then the fights were great.
Yeah, it's just that I still hear that even to this day about... what's the score in the soccer game?
I know.
0-0.
And I always tell my American friends who complain about it, they say, "Oh, there's not enough scoring." I said, "Well, if we attach 7 points to every goal, we could have 28-7 games all the time."
Yep.
So there's that. All right. All that being said, there's enough Americanisms to start the podcast here. We're going to dive into the FPL weekend. Brian, what are some of the things we're going to talk about?
We're already into the next game week.
Right.
We're already into game week 14, so that we're in the middle of, we've got 2 games that happened today. Still a bunch to happen tomorrow and Thursday. So everything we're saying might not matter for certain players depending on outcomes.
For tomorrow, because this is
It's
Tuesday
just the
night. There's
timing.
games Wednesday
Yeah.
night. There's games tomorrow Wednesday.
I mean, even now, I think that, even as earlier this morning, like one of a very popular pick going into this game week deadline was Kairo Matoma for Brighton. And it wasn't until probably this afternoon where there was any news of even him being pictured in training.
Yeah.
And even then, it was still kind of questionable whether or not he was going to start.
Right.
So even things like that, like a player who is obviously by transfer very popular, you're not going to know until tomorrow
Right.
whether or not he's even playing
Right.
or starting or whatever. So that's one of those things where
And this is
a lot can change between now and the end of the day on Thursday.
And this is going to
with
happen
a weekend turnaround
for the next 30 days,
Right.
where there's going to be Travis. There's going to be a
Fixture
lot of
congestion,
there's going to be a
yeah.
lot of midweek matches, and so there's going to be a lot of times where we are potting, and it's really we're potting mid-match week current, and we're actually pretty much discussing the one on the weekend.
So let me ask you this. I mean, obviously recording time frames are going to be affected by the fixture congestion. This is a legitimate question. I hadn't really thought about this ahead of time, but do you guys have any feedback on or any suggestions on how to manage the fixture congestion, knowing that people are going to get injured? There's going to be a decent amount of rotation potentially. Is it just hold on to your butts and see what happens, or is there a method to riding this out and making sure that you've got 11 players every game?
So I think a lot of people up to this point, this is my opinion, Brian, and I'll let you speak in a minute. My opinion up to this point is up to this moment in the season, you've been able to get away with probably not having a full team. A 4-0 defender who's not playing, maybe even a 3-9 defender whose price dropped early, and you're like, okay, that's wicked cheap. A spot, a place filler. Maybe even in midfield too, and or striker. You could easily have I think a lot of the season I had a very cheap striker, and then I had a very cheap defender that never played, but my starters were pretty nailed.
Yeah.
Well, this is exactly the time of year, in my opinion, and I made a change. I'll discuss it in a minute, but I got rid of a defender who I'd had on my team all season.
Wasn't getting minutes.
Was 4-0. Ironically, up to today, had not played a minute.
Then played today.
And that
That's
guy
funny.
played today
Yeah, he was
after
back.
I sold him.
He was
Yeah.
back
Greaves.
today. Yeah.
Greaves
You're pretty good at
from
that.
Ipswich played today. I don't think he had played
Yeah.
a minute all
He
season.
was injured, wasn't he?
Anyways,
So-
Yeah, he was.
So,
he was injured.
so there's going to be anyway. So I say all that to say this: I think you need to have at minimum, if you're going to have a dead spot, have it your second goalkeeper. Goalkeepers don't tend to rotate much in this,
Fabianski's still 4-0
in this period.
so
he might have
there you
gone.
go.
He's up. I think,
and so
a little bit.
but everyone else, that's how you defend against it, is you making sure your 3 bench players are actually contributing. And especially if there should be extra money out there, if people are selling Holland like they should, then in my opinion, then there should be some extra money out there to improve in other spots on your team.
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think my last, even on a wild card, that was game week 8 or whatever. Or was it 6? I think it was 6. It was 6. I wish it was 8. Would have probably made different decisions.
Yeah, I hear you.
No, even then, like, Greaves was the one guy even then that was, at that point he was still playing. He started missing games. He was out since week 8. So he was finally back this week. So it was a big gap there. But even still, like, that was the only dead player on the team. Even Fabianski got the start eventually.
Right, yeah.
So that was another player that, whatever. That's kind of, you can luck into that one if you had it. But that's why, like, it's the reason why, like, after all, like, we've had the discussion about, like, Morgan Rogers. Lots of people selling Morgan Rogers. Like, Morgan Rogers' price has gone down. And so, I mean, I can think of at least, I've seen people bringing in, like, Dibbling from Southampton, who's injured, but just because of his price, you're trying to facilitate some other move or whatever. And I've seen people even now, like, bringing him in. And so, he might not be long-term injury or whatever, but still, yeah. I mean, I would just think this is where, like, when the cheap names pop up and, like, the reason why, like, the Lewis Halls and the Mikalenkos, and there's definitely other players that price. Like, they are playing. They are at least, even if it's a 1 or a 2, it's something. Although, just to add insult to my injury on the season, like even this past week, Mikalenko is my auto sub because Gvardiol didn't play against Liverpool, and so I swapped a 0 for a -1. It was fantastic. it couldn't have been. It couldn't have been better.
No.
So even in a week where I'm like, oh, the score's okay, and then I'm like, oh, it's a okay -1. Great. So it's stuff like that even sometimes, like having the bench depth, I'm like, still didn't help me. It actually it hurt me.
So I'm hearing basically try and avoid having a bench full of players that don't play.
Yeah,
which is great. Dave, you mentioned one of the major ways to do that is to have the money to do that.
Yes,
and one of the best ways to get that money is to bail on Erling Haaland. If you haven't, there are 3 players that no one is bailing on. Your Holy Trinity of FPL.
A current Holy Trinity of FPL must-haves, Brian. Pretty obvious. They are?
Well, I think it's the closest we've been to a template for. I mean, there's been popular choices, but Saka, Salah, Palmer. This past week, where they all return. Yeah, not just return. They're all 3 with. They're all three of the top scores of any player in the game week. So, teams simply must revolve around those 3 guys. And for me, I mean, Dave, we tried to make that, it was a weekly segment, and you've already said it already, and whether or not you have Erling Haaland in a new segment for the FPL America, the podcast that I like to call. I no longer have Haaland in my team as of this game week. 46.5% of FPL managers still have him in their team. That percentage no longer includes me. My moves this week were to sell Haaland for Nicholas Jackson, and to send it.
That worked out.
Mbumo out to bring in Mo Salah to complete the triumvirate there. So
was that for a hit? Was that for a hit or no?
It was for a hit, and that's the best part of the season.
It didn't even matter.
The thing that kept killing me every week was every week was the correct week to take a hit to make that move, and not doing it over and over and over again on the grounds of being patient and not taking a hit because the fixture was right. And even, this last week is the first time I've had a return from a captain in, it feels like forever.
Same.
A return that mattered. And it was simply because I didn't have Haaland in the team
to captain.
Well, I mean, last week I did, but I moved off of him on purpose because of the fixtures and that was the other part. When we left the podcast last week, Captain was on Saka. Captain was on Saka all the way up to the deadline for me, and I switched to Cole Palmer at the deadline.
Which is fine.
Which ended up being okay, but still.
And of course, so I wanted to speak about that too.
Yeah.
Of course, Saka drops in 18. Right?
And so.
He's, 3 assists and a goal, I think, right, in that game?
Yeah. So even in a week where I'm like, I could hardly pick wrong. The only wrong choice was Haaland, and I didn't pick it. And I'm like, great. And I still managed to pick wrong. Just an unbelievable thing. But the template, like having those 3 guys, like anybody who had those 3, that means, like for me, I still have a $1.50 in the bank.
Right.
Yeah.
After all of those moves and everything.
Yeah.
And I have Bruno Fernandes still. So that's the thing. Like, and I still have Gvardiol. So I'm like, I still have some expensive people.
Right.
Like 3 true like premium midfielders.
Right.
And I still have some room to do stuff. The only thing that can matter from this point on is, does Haaland get back to a point where everybody feels like they have to have him again?
I know.
So that is it.
Well, and I'm guessing that might be around the second wild card available, and then you can move some stuff.
Yeah.
I know for me, my move last week, I did it while the games were being played. Went from Strand Larson, who I'd been waiting on, I had a moment where I wanted one Strand Larson or Cunha. I had the money to go to both.
Yeah.
I went with Strand, a little bit cheaper, but their numbers seem to be similar. Of course, Cunha goes bananas the next 2 weeks. As I'm watching him go bananas, I'm like, the heck with this. I literally, in the most lateral of lateral moves, went from Strand Larson to Cunha while the games were going on. That was my move last week.
Wow.
So, of course, what happens this week?
And you regretted it.
Strand Larson
Strand Larson
drops an 11.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's just perfect. That is just
Well,
great
but-
and fantastic.
But Strand Larson is the example. Like I think that's why like team setup or whatever. I think that's been the thing. Like the forward line, you could easily pick 3 less than $6 forwards now as not crazy choices.
Agree.
For your forward line. Like
Yeah.
is it as good as like the just on the numbers or whatever? Like, but it maybe not. But like because of Strand Larson, because of Evan Nielsen now finally up to $6, but both Pedro and Danny Welbeck
Joao
most of this
Pedro,
season.
right.
Joao Pedro and Danny Welbeck all season have been like Pedro's still less than $6. Like there are so many, and Vardy. I mean, Jamie Vardy scored a goal again today. Like he's 5.5 pounds. So that's another, like there are so many of these options where the money, because of Holland just not doing anything, it has made the money is irrelevant again. Because most likely now over half the league has made Salah their number one choice.
Right.
And Holland is either a second choice but either way is now less than 50%.
And again, I just want to rehash.
And that money has gone a lot of other places, but you don't really need to use it all.
The other thing is this, and we've said this multiple times, Holland, to validate the money that he is costs, has to greatly exceed others.
Yeah.
He cannot keep up with guys that are half the price of him at the moment. You take out the first 5 weeks of the season, he is completely pedestrian.
Man, I really wish I could find the person that said that. That's driving me crazy. It was such a good point. It's somebody that's I feel like it was
the same guy you've been referencing for weeks.
No, I'm saying but I'm saying it's anonymous. It's like quoting anonymous at this point. Like I just know it was someone.
Okay.
But I cannot remember which specific account it was that said that. But hey, good on you, whoever it was that said it.
I'm sure they'll hear
point.
And tag us on X.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, all right. So all that being said, we can discuss.
So I mean, you've got the 3 guys, right? So Saka's a return. Salah's a return. That's neither of those are going to change.
And
Palmer's a return.
Everyone's,
not going to
like
change.
Brian said, seems to be templating at minimum those 3, and or have worked their way over the last 3 or 4 match weeks to get to those 3.
And if you haven't, you need to, right? I mean,
Right.
we're saying that is
absolutely. I mean,
do whatever
you're going
you
to be
have to
losing
do.
ground if you don't.
And it's weird because even with Salah's supposed bad fixture turn, it didn't change his results.
Yeah.
Saka and Palmer, Saka had maybe a slight drop off enough that you were okay getting rid of him. Palmer definitely
Saka had
2 game
Well, he
weeks.
didn't play the Bournemouth match.
Right. So
And
then
then
he came back.
But then Liverpool, he had 9.
Right,
and then
right.
Newcastle, Chelsea, he had 2-2. And then the last 2 weeks, Forest and West Ham, it's been 13-18.
right, he's been fantastic. And Palmer had, he had since his 25. You want him, but you've been able to you probably could have done other things without him. Where now the fixtures have turned for Arsenal. They're good. They're good again for Arsenal. We've talked about it forever. The run for Chelsea here is fantastic.
Yeah.
We can leap into that next. And Salah just keeps getting whatever. He still keeps finding a way to get 1 or 2 returns in every single game. Usually more like a return and a half or 2 returns.
It's just his progression. I mean, obviously on this, his progression as a player, I used to call him Rhino Foot, right? Because he'd have so many chances, and he'd just shoot these laser crazy rocket shots, and he'd have 8 shots in a game, and he'd score 1. But his progression, to his credit as a player, is he is. It's like the game has just slowed down for him, or he slowed himself down. Where before he was going so fast, almost too fast for himself, and now it's like he's just such a smarter player.
Patient.
He is more patient. Guys are terrified of him. He only needs one or two moments in a game to make a difference, and he's just gotten more clinical. And I think that's just a credit to him as the work he's put in as a player. And he's going to go down as one of the all-time Premier League greats, if not one of the all-time soccer greats, and he deserves it. Because, but again, early days it was he couldn't make the team at Chelsea, so he gets sold to Roma. Has some work at Roma. Liverpool scouts him, does a great job, brings him in. And yes, he was doing some good things early days, but it was, again, just had no touch. When I said rhino foot, that was early. That was 6-7 years ago, when he just would shoot rocket shots and had no touch. All that is completely changed. He can hit for assist. He never misses a penalty, or rarely. I know he missed one in the Champions League, but he's just Mr. Consistent with the right attitude for a team that hasn't given him a contract yet. And he just continues to go out and produce. And it's just a credit to him. And he's by far crushing anyone that I'm not sure anyone's even really close this season in total fantasy points. And he is just, he's 133 and Palmer's at 100 and Saka's at 98. So he's significantly further, and that's through, 12 match weeks. So it is interesting to watch. You gotta, again, I can't sing his praises enough. I mean, God bless. Out of the last 6 match weeks, there was 1 week he didn't score double digits. Out of the last 6 match weeks, and that week that he didn't score double digits, he had a 9.
Yeah.
He has been on fire. That greatly exceeds what Haaland did the first 6 match weeks. Technically in a perfect world, you owned Haaland for the first 5 match weeks, then you sold him, and then you owned Salah, and then you just rotated the captains, and all of a sudden you are wherever you are. If you did that, you're in doing really, really well. So, credit to people who've done that. And I didn't get to him quick enough. I did about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but it wasn't at the beginning of that.
If you had both in that first 5 match weeks, they matched points, because that was the big thing early on. They had equal.
They matched points in the first 5 match weeks?
Yeah. Because Salah had...
Wow, you're right. 14, 10, 17. Well, 4 and 5, he had a 2 and a 6.
Right. So he still had enough
14,
points
10, 7.
where the two of them were comparable, where it felt like Haaland, those 3 weeks where Haaland went, basically
blowing
hat
everybody out of the water.
hat trick or whatever.
Yeah, Haaland went to start the season 7, 17, 17, 13, 9.
So if you had the guts in game week 5 to move on from Haaland and keep Salah only, and then not only that, captain Salah regardless of what was going on with City in those games. Like if you did that, then that's why you're in the top whatever. You're probably in the top 1,000 at that
there
point.
was no indication that was going to be how things were.
And even by numbers, it's so hilarious because every time I pull the numbers on someone, I wanted to bring up later on just a spoiler alert or whatever, just for Crystal Palace for Mateta from Crystal Palace. It's crazy to look at some of the numbers in the past, whatever time frame you pick, no matter what it is. The time frame for forwards and then for really the rest of the league, no matter what, it's always so-and-so, their numbers, second most or third most, trailing only Erling Haaland. And that's the thing, regardless of what it is. The number of shots that have been taken, the number of shots on target, shots in the box, the number of big chances, big scoring chances, every single statistic is still Erling Haaland across the top in every category, including XG, big chances, all of those things with 0 returns. It's I don't know how else. There is no other way to even without De Bruyne, even with City being in the worst form of all time, it hasn't changed. There is never anything that's affected his actual numbers. The numbers are still basically the same, even if it doesn't feel like that. That's the weirdest part of all of this. We should talk about the next thing.
Agree. I do want to say this, and this continues to blow my mind because you mentioned De Bruyne a second ago. He either isn't good enough anymore, or he will never truly be fit again. He's been back. He's been on the bench in multiple games. He's played in the last 3 Premier League matches and has not contributed hardly anything. He almost gave a pass to Haaland a couple games ago. It turned into being a great save. But I just wonder, I feel like we need to stop mentioning him as a fantasy factor at all until he can actually start a game and actually doing things. And it just blows my mind because City has lost 6 games overall, winless in 7, and Kevin De Bruyne, arguably their second best player on the team, is nowhere.
Yeah.
And supposedly he's healthy.
Yeah, Gary Neville said exactly the same thing immediately following the City match. Where is he and why isn't he playing?
And there's answers to at least 2 Manchester City accounts. So FPL MCFC. So it's FPL Main Road, MAINE. That's a Manchester City account for sure. He said this week De Bruyne is not match fit. He's had an issue with his pelvic bone. Every time he features for City, it delays the recovery process. He stated in a video not long ago that he is suffering from an unusual pain whenever he's shooting and passing. So he's saying ignore the speculation because there are other accounts, there's other sources saying that he and Pep have fallen out. And so this guy and also another account, Guardiolito, at Rodri is on fire on X, said the same thing. That this is a fitness issue. Press conference prior to Feyenoord game, De Bruyne said he doesn't start because of the sharp pains he feels sometimes when he tries to shoot the ball. They bring him on to assess how long he can go without feeling it. They haven't said he is now fully recovered or that the pain is gone completely. So he basically for that guy, it's that this thing is
that's not getting better unless they shut him down.
That's like saying it's not healing faster. Yeah. He's 33. He's not 23.
Yeah.
So that whether if it's just strictly an age thing, and this really is it's true. It isn't going to go anywhere, and you're going to have to start. Where are the other guys?
There aren't any.
That's the
There's
thing.
no one else.
Where are Foden's performances? Why can't Savinho put it together? Maybe if Doku comes back or whatever, even then, at least you have somebody who's got some take-on ability. But no, it's the other guys. It's like Kovacic being fit again is a help. But whatever. Yeah. There's so many variables to this. But yeah, like Dave, I mean, all of the issues with who can come in, who can fill in these gaps, but that's why I'm saying that's what makes Haaland's performances even more insane. The fact that he himself has not dropped off in any where you think the service is terrible, they can't hold the ball nearly as long, and it's that should certainly impact the number of times he's shooting or getting into good scoring chances, and it's actually he's crushing everyone in all of those statistics,
not scoring,
and it still just isn't happening.
I still don't think he's getting the ball in great spots, and I think he's forcing certain things because he's not getting the quality service he's gotten in the past, but he is getting service, just not the quality service, and therefore he's forcing it a little bit more. And stay humble, if you just wouldn't have said that, Holland, shouldn't have said it.
Everything you're talking about with that groin injury really reminds me of the last 2 years of Gerrard at Liverpool. He had a number of surgeries on his groin, and as he aged, that was what actually got him off the field. And actually going to LA was because ultimately he just couldn't play the number of games, and there was no amount of time he could wait in order to be able to be fit enough, except for the summer holiday. And even then, you got to work. He was just never able to recover because of his age. So I wonder how much longer he's got before something like that's catching up to him.
For the first time in a long time, I have 0 City players on my team, and that's probably the first time in I don't know 7-8 years of fantasy that I could say that
since the drop off of Aguero. Since Aguero faded.
but even then,
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think who even at the time.
Yaya maybe if he was still on the team.
David Silva was always. I felt like he was always like he kept creeping back in as an option all the time.
Jesus was.
No, there was. I felt like they always had somebody, but yeah, it's
Silva
it
was
seems
there.
like it's been a long time since
decent.
Just trying to think,
and Mahrez too.
just whenever, but I'm just thinking even whenever they were awful. Like I can't remember the last time where.
Yeah,
it's been a really
Gareth
long
Barry
time.
was on their
Since
team.
I don't
like
own
they
a City
were awful.
player.
Yeah.
I had Gardeval was in my team this week. I made before today. As the match week has started, my defense was like, oh man, is Gardeval even going to play? Is he going to start the next match? Maybe. At this point, I don't know.
He has to start.
Kanate was injured.
He has to.
Kanate was injured, and then I had Greaves. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not. Greaves hadn't started in a while, so I'm like, okay, don't know his status. Anyways, I made 2 moves this week. It's rare. I made 2 moves in the defense.
Should ask Barry.
And then the money ended up working out even. I kind of was leaning, and we'll get to Chelsea defense in a minute. I really wanted to bring in Cucurella, but I couldn't do – actually, I could have – anyways, I brought in 2 defenders. I sold Gardeval and Greaves, and I brought in Timber and Wan-Bissaka. So I couldn't get Wan-Bissaka cheaper than Cucurella, but I did want to bring in Timber. I wanted an Arsenal defender. It's the cheapest way into the Arsenal defense going into the next few match weeks.
His price
I would have loved to have been able to go to Cucurella, but he's 5'1". Although, if Kanate, if more word comes out that Kanate is not healthy, and it will be a while,
I don't think he's coming back.
Then my transfer for next week might actually be to bring in Cucurella because they're both at the moment they're both 5'1". So, anyways, my money was even. Steven Gardeval, Greaves for Wan-Bissaka, Timber. That was my move this past week.
Is this our Chelsea defense moment? Is this where we're
Let's
going
roll
to
into that. So, Brian, I asked you earlier in the week. I said, "Am I crazy?" When I was looking at things because we do a podcast and we need to discuss things, and I finished the match week in first place in the mini league, and so in the mini league, and so I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I moved up to 7th in the podcast league. I'm like, this is cool, at least for 1 week. I'm not sure I've ever been in the top 10 in the podcast league, so I'll take it. I can at least say that we have a lot of good players in our podcast league, and so I was pumped about that. So I'm where can I improve? Defense was definitely a place where I could improve. This week it was worth a hit for me. Because I needed to make sure at minimum that I had some players playing. And Brian, but going back to what you said earlier, there are times where it just doesn't matter if you take a hit or not. And sometimes if you're too patient, it can bite you. And for whatever reason, I didn't want that to happen. I thought West Ham would be able to get a clean sheet against Leicester. They did not, and it wasn't even close. It was Leicester 3, West Ham 1 today. Mm-hmm. So I'm already on the losing end there, as Wan-Bissaka, I think, got me a 1 today, as he did. But he was coming off a 6-15 and a 6. Mm-hmm. So pretty solid for him, and his fixtures coming up, not to try to back myself, are home Wolves at Bournemouth, home Brighton at Southampton. Pretty decent for the next 4 match weeks. Now, where I wanted to go, and this is what I was looking at with Cucurella and Colwill, obviously 2 different price points. Colwill center back 5'5", Cucurella 5'1". Obviously, you have a chance of getting some attacking returns from him. Chelsea's defense we've never mentioned all year, and I don't think it's been worth it. But as I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm watching. Chelsea played Arsenal pretty tough, although Arsenal should have won that. I mean, God bless it. If they just get a toe on the cross and literally the last kick of the game, they win it 2-1, but Chelsea played pretty good. Chelsea's been playing really good over the last 5-6 match weeks. And Caicedo and Enzo seem like they're really kind of owning midfields. Palmer continues to be cold. And I look at Chelsea's fixture schedule, and they're at Southampton, at Spurs the next 2 match weeks, and home Brentford, at Everton, home Fulham, at Ipswich, at Crystal Palace, home Bournemouth, home Wolves. And I'm like, there's some clean sheets in there. At least that's what I'm thinking, especially the way Chelsea has been playing. Now, look, someone would say, hey, okay, yeah, Dave, how many clean sheets had they had all season? And I would look at you and say, well, they've had 3. They've had 3 out of 12, out of 14 or 13 games. 3 out of 13 games they've had clean sheets. That's not a great defensive record. But I would also, on the flip side, say their schedule, you could argue Chelsea's played a decently tough schedule up to this point. So if their back half of their schedule, their next 8 games is lighter, there's a greater chance that they could end up having some clean sheets. And Maresca's had now 13 match weeks to start figuring out their team. It just feels like Chelsea's defense is something that a lot of pundits going forward are going to be talking about. And I'm not saying I want to be first, but I'm like, this makes sense to me.
Yeah, their midfield's figured it out, which is protecting their defense a little bit.
Yeah. Ask City what it's like to not have midfielders protecting defense.
Right. The other thing, I mean, obviously the Tottenham game is probably the one you're most afraid of. Last 3, Chelsea 2, Tottenham 0, Tottenham 1, Chelsea 4, Tottenham 2, Chelsea 0. So there's definitely goals in the Tottenham match.
Sure.
I mean, the same is true against Brentford. Brentford 2, Chelsea 2, Chelsea 0, Brentford 2, Chelsea 0, Brentford 2 in the last 3. So there's goals there. Those are the 2 that you're probably a little bit more worried about than the rest of them. But all that to say, with the way that they're playing, I don't think that's a crazy idea. Brian, we talked pre-pod. There was some talk about Sanchez maybe not getting the start all of a sudden. His price went up yesterday. Nobody's buying that rumor. They're buying Sanchez.
Yeah. He's not getting. I think manager cleared that up. I think that was a question that was, kind of weeks and weeks ago
where
when
that
they
came
bought
from,
whatever the guy is. Whatever. I mean, he's got some pedigree, so I think that was the fear. Is like, oh, Sanchez not particularly good, and this other guy could take the job. Sanchez keeps not losing the job, so I wouldn't necessarily be worried about that. I think
What's the Chelsea stats?
The only good thing with the Chelsea defense is there's only 2 options that are reliable right now. So it's either Colwell or Cucurella. So that's it. So that's if there's any good side to this, it's that
because Fofana's hurt now.
Wesley Fofana
Fofana's
injured
hurt
against Aston Villa and is out. This is seems like it's a long-term injury.
Yeah.
Reece James, another injury, so that even if you were tempted after he said he was coming back, I know exactly. Reece James, I every time people talk about it, it's like anybody who's played it long enough where you hear Luka Dean is an option again. It's like, wow, it's like the Reece James that's fitter, just not an option. But I'm just saying, it's like the only players who've had reliable minutes this season have been Colwell, Fofana, and Cucurella. And now Fofana's injured. So it might come down to the price. The fact that Colwell is 4.5 and that Cucurella is now over 5, that might be enough to do it. So what's weird is this was Cucurella's first attacking return for the season.
Right. Right. Don't get too crazy excited about that.
Of all their defenders, only Malo Gusto has done anything attacking wise that is
fit again, by the way.
So he came on for minutes. He came on for minutes against Villa at the very end. I think it was 6 minutes or something like that.
Minimal, yeah.
Right. So, but just looking down through there's no one does anything. None of the defenders do anything. It's not
anything meaning.
I mean, I'm saying
attacking returns.
I'm saying they have not scored any goals. There's no one has scored a goal.
Right.
Of the Chelsea defenders, there have been
one assist or 2 assists.
Cucurella's assist this week is the only assist for any Chelsea defender.
Right.
For the season. I'm saying that Gusto for the season has taken 13 shots. The next most is Colwell with 3. So
probably on headers.
And of all the Chelsea defenders, they have a total of 2 shots on target for the entire season. You're not doing anything you get beyond a clean sheet from the Chelsea defender is I would say like a miracle.
Sure.
At this point of the
I
season.
agree.
2 total big chances to score for the Chelsea defenders this season, and it's led to nothing. Even on chances, like chance creation, Gusto and Fofana 5 each, Colwill 3, Cucurella 3, Tosin 1, all other defenders 0. Like there's nothing. The creativity has nearly nothing to do with those guys. It's entirely the midfield, the wide players, the central players. All attacking everything for Chelsea is going through every front player. So that's the reason why, like, it's not because they can't get clean sheets. I think what would be concerning is, like, just on the sheer numbers of it, they're middling. Like, they've conceded for the season, they've conceded 14 goals, I think total on the season, which is the same number that Arsenal have conceded. But for XG, Chelsea is like 10th on the season. They're 12th. So they're right in the middle of the pack as far as what they should have conceded, I guess. And then you look and you're like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. They've conceded in all but 3, every game but 3, and their first home clean sheet was in like the one of the matches you would have said there's no way they're keeping a clean sheet in that one.
So you're saying don't be tempted by the current form and the fixture run
So
as it stands right now.
The permanent debate for this game is how much does form follow fixtures? It seems like it generally does. So this is your best. Like if you were ever going to hedge towards a defense for a fixture run, this is as good as you're going to get for a non-Arsenal, non-Liverpool set of defenders. And that's why I'm saying it's like it's the toss-up of you can pick one of these 2 guys. That's it. You could, if you really wanted to be risky, you could take a chance that Gusto stays fit, even though he has only he's been sporadically fit even this season. But it's Cucurella, it's Colwill. Is that 0.6 going to Cucurella? Can you do that, and do you care about that? If not, then you probably would want to go for him.
I think, but Cucurella is also, I would think, more prone to yellow cards. I don't. If only there was a way we could look at that. I do know this. Looking at Chelsea's schedule, and I hate. Travis, don't give me a hard time about this. I hate giving Chelsea credit for anything. There are 2 losses. First game of the year to Manchester City, and then to Liverpool. All other games, wins or draws. So they haven't necessarily. They drew Forest, Palace, United, Arsenal, and Southampton. Well, no, I haven't played Southampton. Southampton yet. So they got 4 draws, 2 losses. Those draws are against decent teams. Maybe save Palace. Maybe that was a bad draw. But that was early season. That was before Eze was hurt. That was a different looking Palace team at that point, probably. Anyways, my point being is I think Chelsea handles this schedule. And again, I don't own Nico Jackson, but I'm probably within the next couple weeks going to try to make a move to try to get him. Would I rather own Nico Jackson or Kai Havertz at the moment?
Well, that's what I was going to get to on our Would You Rather segment at this stage. Brian, based on what you're saying, would you rather have a guy like Cucurella or 0.5 more Urian Timber? It seems pretty clear cut to me.
0.4 more. Not
0.4.
Not
0.4?
Yeah,
What's he at?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if
he's 0.5. Cucurella is 5'1". Timber is 5'6".
Oh, that's because Timber went up. Yep. I just literally bought him today. He was 5'5".
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if I wanted to sell, if I'll keep Gvardiol. I don't know if he's not like a priority sell necessarily. But he would be on the hot seat of sales for me of my team. And if I was going to pick, I mean, I'm going straight to Arsenal defender.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I said the fact that now he's an even swap for Gabriel. He's an even, and then I make money going from him to Timber.
Right.
Is crazy. If I needed $1, I could go from Gvardiol to
I think
Correa.
Timber's going to have a goal coming up soon. I'm not saying he's going goal crazy. I'm just saying he's getting in good spots. It won't surprise me if within the next 3 games he has a goal and or an assist.
The other option would be just go to Sanchez, skip the defender altogether, and just hope that the goalkeeper can.
And that's not a bad move.
If the clean sheet is possible, then the clean sheet can go to the goalkeeper just as much. And knowing that it's not like there's any defender who's
knocking it out of the park.
Right. It's not like they're not going to do anything attacking wise, or the odds are so far this season that they are not going to do anything. Reece James was the only guy, even looking at set pieces. He took corners. He's the only defender who kicked any free kick of any kind. Everything. It's like literally everything they're doing is going to everyone but a defender. So that's where I'm like, I said I moved Holland to Nicholas Jackson this week. So I have Jackson, have Palmer. I mean, I could go sells to Sanchez for free. That's a free move, and that's where I'm like, if he's my third Chelsea guy for this run, I feel like I would be okay with that.
One thing to note on Nico Jackson is he is on 4 yellow cards.
Yeah, he keeps hovering on that for a long time.
He's still on the hover.
Him and Eight Nori keep not getting that 5th.
Well, and Eight Nori's form has dropped off as he's tried to protect himself from getting that ban. They do need him on the pitch, so that's an interesting one.
Yeah. So I think all of it to say, again, there are other defenders. I think if you were going to prioritize, if there really was, that Joe Gomez is going to have a big run of starts here. You're gonna definitely have him through probably the middle of December. Is that at least a couple weeks?
Gomez at 4.8. Would you rather
a couple
have
of real life
Gomez
weeks, which is a few
or Tarkowski? Gomez.
Yeah, pretty easy
right?
on that one.
Right.
The issue is Tarkowski's going to get minutes. Gomez is not guaranteed minutes because you do have Kwanzaa sitting out there.
Right.
And as you hit that fixture congestion, there's every probability that Kwanzaa's going to get minutes. So it's hard to.
The confidence is not gone on Kwanzaa enough that he wouldn't play at all.
I don't think so. And he got minutes against City. Obviously, that was a different situation. But he got minutes at right back, not at center back. So the confidence is not fully there for him to be matched up against Erling Haaland. But there is a possibility, again, with the pileup.
I know we're in Would You Rather, but can I also ask another question?
Yeah.
Who scored more goals this season? Nico Jackson or Cole Palmer?
Palmer.
Brian?
I still would think it's Palmer, but it's probably close. Trick question. They're tied.
You nailed it.
Hey.
You nailed it.
Great.
You nailed it. And goal involvements. How many? Who has more goal involvements? Who has more assists? Cole Palmer or Nico Jackson?
That I think is Cole.
Yeah,
But
I feel
Nick
like that's gotta be
Jackson
Cole
probably
Palmer.
has more than you would think.
You are correct in what you say. It is 4 Nico Jackson, 6 Cole Palmer.
Yeah, that's not far off.
I
Not
mean,
bad.
so we're talking about, we're talking about Palmer being part of the Holy Trinity of midfielders right now.
Jackson's worth.
Again, I hate Chelsea, but this is fantasy. Nico Jackson, I haven't given enough credit up to this point. The numbers say I should be giving him a lot more credit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially going into this
Yeah.
next stretch.
Especially with the amount of credit we've given Cunha too, who's only 1 point
He's
less than him too.
significantly
So,
cheaper.
I mean, $1, pound dollar.
Pound
So,
dollar,
yeah,
that's
a lot.
significant.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
Give it to you.
but that's why I think the options are good. I did see at least one person suggest that Nkunku could get the start over
Really?
Nicholas Jackson at some point, which would ruin plans for everybody. I just think the minutes, though, the minutes for Nicholas, even this week, he played 70 minutes against Aston Villa. That's fantastic. He scores the first goal. He gets you something, and then he goes and sits down for 20 minutes at the end of the game. He's never seemed like a guy who can't handle the load, which is great. So I just think, I didn't consider not getting him on the grounds that oh, geez, they might actually give Nkunku his minutes here at some point. But even if they do, the rest of the schedule, like that might be one game. It's not a replacement player. It would simply be to spell him for like just for
a game.
Right. Congested fixtures. That's it.
While we're on Would You Rather, interesting news today came out. So I want to ask this question because it's baffling me pretty significantly.
All right.
Would you rather have Mo Salah or Phil Foden? It just seems like a silly question, right?
It feels like this is
The silliest
It feels
of
like this
questions.
is a trick that you're trying to set us up
So,
to say something stupid.
There's nothing
No.
you can.
There's
nothing you're going to be able to say.
There is nothing that would convince you that it makes sense that Phil Foden is held in a higher regard in fantasy or otherwise than Mo Salah.
Correct.
However, Mo Salah was left out of the nominations for the FIFA Pro team of the year, and Phil Foden found himself as a nominee. How and in what world does that make sense? And why does Salah not get the credit
This
for the
is your
incredible
30
player that he
seconds,
is?
Your yearly 30 seconds to complain about.
It makes me
Salah getting shafted on every level.
Every single accolade that he could possibly get as an individual, he's constantly looked over. That makes no
Agree.
sense to me.
Absolutely agree.
Makes absolutely no sense to me. Which is a reason, and I was talking about this with a number of folks during the City match. I think he'll leave because of that. I legitimately think he's getting to the age where he has done everything he can do in the Premier League. He needs to go to a team where he can get the respect that he rightly deserves.
If he plays for a team that plays in all white,
Madrid.
that's the kiss of world recognition,
Right?
Regardless of how well you play. Oh, you put on that white kit. Oh, you must be.
It really
great.
seems. It really seems like that's what it's going to
But
take.
if you wear that Liverpool red,
I don't think it's Liverpool. I just, for some reason, he's getting overlooked. Is it because he's part of a collective team that is achieving, and his achievements are overlooked? But
is this like
it's very weird.
Is this like the American football thing where you say a quarterback is a system quarterback? And it kind of downplay their abilities because you're like, wow, he's only good because he's in that system.
Like the
this is not
80
an
whatever
American
Bears,
football
the
podcast, but
McMahon.
yes, I agree with that.
McMahon was terrible, but he won the.
Dan Marino could have played for any team, but Joe Montana needed Bill Walsh's West Coast
System.
offense to.
That's right.
He was a system quarterback. I feel
Right.
like that's existed as long as I've been alive.
That's
Agreed.
my bit.
All right.
But let's talk actual would you rathers.
Thank you.
Dave, you have recently dealt with this. Would you rather have Strand Larson or Cunha?
You know what?
Because
I'm out of here. You know, you would have to go. You would have to go there. That's ridiculous, Travis. It's an open wound. Just dig that knife into that open wound. Sold Strand for Cunha this past week, and Strand drops what? That
a lot.
Strand dropped an 11 this past week, and Cunha dropped a 2. After Cunha was coming off of a 9, 6, 12, 16.
Ouch.
Sure seemed like he was red hot. Let's go to him. Strand was coming off of a 1, 8, 2, 5. Boom, there's his 11.
I looked at it like everyone else probably did and saw like this guy's the hottest hand in football, Cunha. Like,
oh yeah.
Why not? I didn't have Salah in my team at that point. Why not captain that guy?
Did you?
I did not.
Oh,
I said I captained Cole
All
Palmer.
right, Travis.
But I'm saying Saka had been the consider. I was like, I never clicked the button to do it, but it
you
was
thought
that
about
thing
it.
like, man, he's just been so
Red
good.
hot. Red hot.
Good for you that you didn't.
Travis.
What's the answer to the question? You're obviously regretting it this week.
Cunha.
But
No,
Cunha's the guy,
electric
right?
player.
I agree.
Cunha's the guy who creates more. Brian can tell us, and I can flip it to him in a second, although he's told us over multiple weeks.
Yeah.
Cunha's stats are absolutely the ones that you want. They're not Strand's. Although on the season, Strand's got 8 goal involvements, and Cunha's got 10. And it just,
Yeah.
when you phrase it like that, Cunha's got one more goal, he's got one more assist than Strand, although stats would tell you he should have a lot more or Strand should have a lot less. So I don't know if Cunha is overachieving his stats, Brian, or if if Cunha is underachieving his stats, or if Strand is overachieving his stats.
It's funny because I know for sure it was definitely big man Bakker had that stat this week about because I still have Raul Jimenez in my team, and that was one of those players that like he keeps points dodging, and I know for sure one of the stats that he had was just that in the past few weeks, Jimenez has outperformed Cunha on underlying stats, but Cunha's got way more goal involvements. It's just one of those things that just keeps happening. It's it just feels like it's a permanent, like it's just gonna every week. It's this point swing between two, kind of equal players, and if you pick the right one, it's such a huge boost to you. But no, the one stat between those two guys for the season, like they are close in goal involvements. Cunha, of course, missed some of the beginning of the season, his first 2 games. So Strand Larson is actually slightly ahead of him in minutes on the season. But like 37 shots for the season for Cunha, 19 shots for Strand Larson. What is crazy is that they both have 13 shots on target. So Strand Larson's efficiency here is like off the charts.
Yeah, but 90% of his shots are headers inside the 6, right?
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, and like the Cunha, like a couple weeks ago, that 16 that he dropped is on the, he has like an absolute like missile from way outside the box. That's like just
everything
a perfect
he's doing is
strike.
just electric.
No, he's awesome, and that's the big difference that we said. Like this was an FPL Black Wolf, the Wolves fan that we've referenced on the pod. Lots of people know who the guy is. Said that weeks and weeks ago. It's talisman, like that common. Everybody throws those terms around. Just he's the guy for them. Cunha is, and what route to points do these guys have? And Cunha is because he's so much more creative than every other forward, not just on his own team. It's 23 chances created for Cunha, 8 for Strand Larson on the season. So it's all going through. Like Cunha can place the perfect pass. He's managed to score the goals, certainly on penalties. Like if you're picking one or the other, and money's no object, you're picking Cunha.
Yeah.
But like they're both good picks, and I've seen both of them, like both guys in plenty of teams. Like picking both of them. Why is it bad? The fixtures are still really good for them,
right?
And even in weeks where like you might have that where. Like, what if you're one of your other guys? How does everyone with Alexander Isak feel about the performance last week? 20 minutes and a hip injury. Like, did you like his 1? Like, how is that worse than if you get a 2 from, say, Joao Pedro or a 2 from Cunha in a down week or whatever? Where Strand Larson, like, both of these guys they're 16 points apart. I feel like that gap is bigger than I would guess given the results of it. But I don't hate I don't know. Why would it be bad to have both guys? I don't know. I just don't.
Interesting.
I don't think most people are going to do that, but I think they're both playing so well. It's viable.
Yeah.
All right, Travis, I got a would you rather, unless you have one queued
No,
up.
I got a couple, but go for it.
All right. This is going to be a fun one because it's going to open up some conversation. Travis, would you rather have Brennan Johnson or Luis Diaz? Brennan Johnson, significantly cheaper. Luis Diaz currently 7'5", Brennan Johnson 6'7".
I think that's a really hard one because I think Brennan Johnson is probably in a better vein of form right now than Luis Diaz is. But seeing how Luis Diaz is being used by Slot as the center striker is going to open up more opportunities for him to score.
Okay.
And then also seeing him stay on the pitch when Cody Gakpo came on.
So Diaz, you're saying Diaz.
Yeah, I think Diaz. I think it's a lot harder than it probably would have been 2 weeks ago.
Would you rather have, again, price not being a factor here because there's going to be some significant price differences? Would you rather currently own Brennan Johnson or Bruno Fernandes?
Fernandes. I have Fernandes and I captained him this last week.
Okay, Brian.
I think
That
he
ended up being good.
2
Brian,
or 3.
would you rather own Brennan Johnson or Bruno Fernandes?
I know that the fixtures here are a little tougher for Manchester United. I still think I would take Bruno because the minutes are
Basically
guaranteed
yeah.
and penalties.
Would you
Yeah,
rather
that's-
own?
But Brennan Johnson is an out. I feel like Brennan Johnson is still an
Kulusevski
excellent
has
pick.
been playing very well. And are they splitting minutes or are they?
No,
Is that a factor?
no.
Because he's been playing out on the right, hasn't he?
They're all going to rotate.
Okay.
Brian,
they keep getting shuffled.
would
That's
you
why we
rather
talked about him
own-
last week as like I don't know what to tell you to do with him. It's
Would
still
you
the
ra-
same.
would you
but
rather-
Brennan Johnson is I feel like Brennan Johnson feels
Is
like
distanced
he-
himself from
Well,
Kulusevski.
I don't even.
And or any Spur, I think at the moment, even Madison.
I think they can all
Just minutes.
again. They can all get it. I just think that Brennan Johnson is playing as
The most
confidently
consistent.
and keeps getting in positions where he's
Yeah.
fitting the system really well,
Yeah.
I agree
and
completely.
so he can get it any week.
He's a system guy. Brian,
He's a real Joe Montana.
would you rather
yeah.
own Brennan Johnson or Brian Mbumo
That's a tough one.
right now? Not based on anything else right now.
Right this second, I mean, I just sold. I said, even despite him being my namesake as a team name, I sold Mbumo here this past week. I think I would take
Johnson. It's hard, right? Doesn't it? What is it about Johnson that we don't have the
Because
confidence that he does?
Well, I think I now have confidence in him.
Really?
Absolutely. And if I can get to him, I would rather own Brennan Johnson right now over Mbumo. And I don't think it's close. I think
I just sold
Mbumo
Mbumo too. This
over
just
the
for
last
week
however
15.
many weeks has been very inconsistent. And Johnson, whether he subs in or whether he starts over the last
That's a good one.
4 to 5 match weeks or a little bit more, maybe 6, 7, has a greater chance of getting a return. And
Interesting.
Brian's right; he is fitting into that system.
I think
better.
The fear of red and gray fixtures for Brentford here in the next few weeks. I mean, even this week though, why is Villa? There's nothing red about Villa's defense. So Wissa probably wasn't a popular choice for people this week. I think that again, that's the tough thing. Same guys, same attacking players on the same team. And this week you get to watch. It might be a little bit different. You might have hesitated a little bit in selling him as fast as everybody wanted to get rid of him, like enough to drop his price. They took the assist away from Mbuemo this week.
Yeah, that was interesting.
On what I think anyone that watched it would have said it went to the guy who scored it
because of the deflection. Yeah, it was a weird one.
They ruled it it was intent. If there was ever a time where you wanted to bring a former host back on the show to talk about intent, I would do it.
Did you pay up, by the way? Does he owe us anything?
I think I can't remember. Maybe
That's a no.
But then this week you have
I might have dropped the ball there.
multiple accounts. You can find it. I would say, I can think of it right this second from FPL Raptor, just talking about Mbumo's XG shots. Like, he's attempted nearly nothing. His XG is nearly 0. He's playing so wide. The best you could have gotten out of him in the last few match weeks is 2 assists total. There's not the narrative changes drastically if they had won a penalty in any of those games, but they haven't. And then in the meantime, you have Wissa, who has scored recently, and then you have Shada this week, who goes completely ham. So that's the thing where I'm like, I don't know, when you have the same players, like similar types of players in the same team, and they're all outperforming the popular guy, like it's Luis Diaz and Mo Salah from game weeks 1 through 4 all over again. And this week at Villa, there is no reason why Brentford cannot score multiple goals. There's no reason why Mbuemo can't be involved in them.
Yeah.
But like
West
right
is the
now,
guy.
the last 4 weeks, the performances have been poor or have been less than what you got from him earlier in the season, and his involvement was way less. So I think that's what makes it tough with him. But like at Villa, not bad. They're home against Newcastle. If they were going to St. James, that's a little bit different. But Newcastle, what is Newcastle? They're awful. They feel like they're an awful team. They've had one big win here recently. Like, they just do not look they don't look great. And then after that, they're at Chelsea again. Like, that's probably not the best. Like, that's what I'm saying. The next 3 games, like, they're not red, but they're not exactly like go chase the guys who are in those matches. I think that's the difference. And then home to Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest, objectively, one of the best non-Arsenal, non-Liverpool defenses on the season. So it's 4 matches in a row where you're like, that's not great. Once you get to Brighton, and then Brighton, which is okay, and then Arsenal. So definitely until the new year, like, I think this is why you feel like you can go without most anyone Brentford at all. And that's where I'm like, I think that's why this feels like weeks ago hedging against the Arsenal defense in a really tough run of fixtures,
Right.
which ended up being
The right decision.
totally fine.
Yep.
This feels like can they get it in here? Absolutely. There's definitely matches where Brentford can do it. I just think comparatively, the way Spurs are just actually, like, offensively are a top 4 offense on the season, then like, it doesn't always reflect in the outcomes, but that's where, like, yeah, if you're picking one or the other on someone like Brennan Johnson or Mbuemo,
Okay.
I think you're doing.
I just want to be clear. So, obviously, no one's taking Brennan Johnson if price wasn't an issue. No one's taking Brennan Johnson over Mo Salah, Palmer, Saka. That tends to be it.
Once
at
you
the
get to
moment,
the
for me.
once you get to the 4th midfield spot, for sure.
I would rather have Brian currently at the moment. I'd rather have Brennan Johnson over Mbumo. I would currently rather have Brennan Johnson over Luis Diaz. I would currently rather have Brennan Johnson, I think, over James Maddison.
I think the name you need to ask about is because the price is similar as Marcus Rashford.
That's where I was going to get to. Yeah. With Marcus Rashford's last 2 matches where he's had 1 and 2 goals in their respective matches since the new manager has come in. I was on the pod multiple weeks ago. It's not often I'm right.
Yeah.
But I said it, Travis.
A little tongue-in-cheek, but yeah.
I said, hey, Marcus Rashford has been horrible under Ten Hag. Wouldn't surprise me. And sure enough, where does Amarin put him? In the center striker position the second he comes in. And what does he start doing? Instant production. Amarin plays a 3-4-3, and guess who's playing up top for him in the games he's managed has been Marcus Rashford. Xerxes, who was playing there, is playing out on the left when he's come in. And Marcus Rashford, again, and we haven't, again, it hasn't been any need to discuss him up to this point.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, you're right. There is a discussion. What is the cost? What is it's not in front of me at the moment.
Did he go up to 7?
I think he went up to 7.
Yeah, he was 6'9" whenever I typed
So
some stuff
Travis,
out
did
earlier.
you say his price went up today?
It did.
He is up to 7.
Correct.
So Brendan Johnson at 6'7", Rashford at 7'0". I would rather own easily Rashford over Mbumo, and I would rather own currently Rashford over Brennan Johnson because of where he's playing. Although I would not do it this week against Arsenal.
Yeah, I think that's
After this week, I would. In fact, that probably will be my move the following week, is to bring in Rashford for Mbumo.
I think Rashford might be the toughest. Like, I get why people are going to him. It's 2 weeks of returns.
Fixtures are tough, though.
Yeah.
City's not tough.
At Arsenal, home Nottingham Forest, and then at City.
But
Two of the best defenses.
But hold on a second.
I guess
Arsenal
that's the point.
is not the same defense that they've been
Yeah.
Now, the last 3 or 4 games that they played in all competitions, okay. Ever since Odegaard came back, they figured, and Timber and Calafiori are healthy.
Yeah.
They are looking a lot better. They still leaked 2 goals to a West Ham team. They were up 3-0 and or 4-0. I can't even remember it this past weekend. In the first half, in one of the craziest first halves,
and you let the
7 goals.
I was gonna say you let the 2 weirdest hammers get you.
I know. Brian's right. 7 goals in the first half of the Arsenal West Ham match this past weekend. My point being is Arsenal. Yes, Arsenal's dark red, City's dark red. We all know City currently is not a dark red.
You want to know a crazy?
I don't think Arsenal is a dark red as much as I want them to be.
You want to know a crazy Manchester City defensive stat that
Lord.
has changed? That's like it's hard. I can't believe that it's real.
Okay, then it's not.
WhoScored.com, great resource for team statistics. At least one of the places you can find this kind of thing. Overall for the season. So Manchester City defensively, as far as expected goals are concerned, they've now dropped to 14th for XG, which is wild to see them that low. So they've conceded 18 goals, which is a ton. They're 14th worst for expected goals, but they're the weirdest stat with them. They've only conceded 113 shots so far this season, which is the fewest of any team in the league.
Really?
113 shots allowed defensively. Number 1 overall. That's the number 1 fewest shots. They are conceding an XG per shot of 0.2, which is by far
the highest it's got to be.
The worst XG per shot of any team in the league. They are worse than Ipswich at 0.15. Manchester United is 3rd worst at 0.14.
So they're not conceding a lot of shots. But the shots they do concede might as well be goals.
Yeah, it's a 20% chance of scoring per shot.
Wow.
I mean, that is
odd to me.
Yeah, like
the low shots is not strange because they're a possession team, so they've got the ball most of the time.
But they're not dominating possession like they used to. They have no one protecting that. They're relying on Bernardo Silva and Gundogan to protect that defense.
Well,
and unless
Silver's
Pep goes back and draws up something else and says, all right, let's move Akanji or move John Stones or put someone in there to protect that defense. It ain't Rico Lewis. And if you're going into a match against Liverpool and your starting midfield is Rico Lewis, Bernardo Silva, aged Bernardo Silva, and an aged Gundogan, and a wet diaper Rico Lewis. Good luck. Good luck going up against the best team in the league right now. And they got pummeled. And that game should have been 4 or 5-0, and it was 2-0.
It should have been a lot worse.
Yeah, all of that to say, I understand what you're saying. Manchester United, 2 good performances for the new manager, who, again, pleased with their performance.
It's also against Ipswich and Everton. Bottom 2 teams in the table. They're not the bottom 2, but
there's at the only so much you can say about it. This week. What is it? Tomorrow or Thursday that you play them?
Tomorrow. Wednesday.
So that's what a great game! What a fun test for Manchester United. Should be all the history, all the
they actually have a shot at making it a game.
Arsenal on
not winning, but making it a game.
Absolutely,
Arsenal on the ascendancy, but Manchester United finally with some actual performances and some confidence.
I think I think
it's really good, a good game. Should be.
It's probably been a little bit. I'm not saying it's been years, but a little bit that United's been able to come into this game and feel like, hey, we got a shot today. And that's kind of where they are right now. I think they have a legitimate shot of saying, hey, we could go in there and possibly get a win. I don't think they will, but I think they have a legitimate shot. No one could argue they haven't had talent. It's just their locker room mojo
not set up
has never been good for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this week, Rashford, he gets a brace, first goal from a deflection. So
Hey,
whatever.
goal's a goal.
He made it happen.
Exactly. Second goal, more like vintage Rashford. So that's the positives for him. And obviously back-to-back returns for the first time in the season. I think, position is a huge one. It's just like 5 shots in 2 games. It's fine. Like 2 goals from 3 shots on, 3 shots on target. So, like
3 goals with 3 shots on target.
Yeah. So another one.
Some
Like
Obama-yanging there.
4 shots in the box, fine. Only 6 total touches in the opposition box in those 2 games.
That's surprising.
Which is not many, but 3 goals. That's the thing. Like you can, like, what are you going to do? Argue with the goals? The fact that it's just that it's him. I think that's the point.
Right.
That was what we talked about weeks ago. Was like, hey, if the new manager matters to someone, can Rashford can he string some performances together?
And he's done it.
Yeah, fans pulling video of him showing like, hey, the guy's lost like 2 gears since like prime Rashford. Like, what the heck? Where did this guy's speed go? He would have taken on defenders, would have tried to run through gaps in a different way or whatever. And early season, he was just not doing that.
Yeah.
So whether that's Ten Hag just like ruining everything for them or whatever, like it just like it's positive. I think that's the big difference.
Very much so. So you're kind of hedging. Or do we ever get Did we ever get a call on Rashford or Johnson from you?
I would still take Brennan Johnson, but only because now, I mean, this is like a 2-month scoring streak for Brennan Johnson that like
Absolutely.
he just keeps not missing, and he keeps saying like once he got over whatever that issue was with the social media deal with him a couple months ago, like it's been nothing but goals for that guy. So like Brennan Johnson went for a 10 this week. It's not like that's on one goal and bonus points in a weird game against Fulham. Like that's the thing. Like
Brennan Johnson has not gone more than 2 matches without giving a return all season.
It's crazy.
He has never gotten to 3. There's been once where he's gotten to 2, and then that next third game he's given a return. Those are the types of guys you want to own.
So are you saying you're not going to go to Rashford, you're going to go to Brendan Johnson?
I have a tough decision to make because I don't expect a whole. Now, if Rashford goes out and shows out against Arsenal, that might seal the deal.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. Like that third. So if you were asking me, like, if I could, because I could upgrade, if depending on what I did with if Gvardiol goes to somebody cheaper, I'm at that point where I have enough money to make Morgan Rogers turn into Brennan Johnson.
Right.
If that's
that's
the
great.
decision,
What are you doing?
easy.
Right.
Like that's the thing. Like
that's worth a hit.
Even this week, where I'm like, all the sheeple are selling Mbumo to go to Matoma or Jared Bowen or whatever, but not me. Like I'm taking the sheeple's champion.
Yeah.
I'm going from Mbumo to Salah. Like if you can make that move, you're doing it.
Right.
I'm the king of the sheep. I'm the biggest sheep. I have the biggest brain of all the sheep. I went from Mbumo
To Salah.
to the Egyptian king.
All right.
But I'm saying, like, that's if you can make leaps like that,
Sure.
those are no-brainer
Right.
type leaps. And I think that's like the gap now between like your lowest player and somebody who's been that reliable. Like those are the kind of moves you can make just with some money.
All right. Now, this is a fun day because you don't often get to do this. For at least us here in the Americas on the East Coast, where the match weeks are starting at the deadline is like 5:30 or 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Right. Today I made moves before the match week started at lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
I could make a move right now because I have another free transfer going into the weekend. So going into this weekend, I could let Mbumo go and he can turn into Rashford and or he could turn into Brendan Johnson. I could do it right here on set. I will probably wait to see. Honestly, I want to see Travis. I want to see. Okay. All things considered, Johnson is the move. That's the smarter move. I want to see what Rashford looks like against Arsenal's defense. If Rashford looks scary against Arsenal's defense, then I'm just going to go to Rashford.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the upside there is a little higher. He's playing striker. If it's going to be 3 games in a row as center striker, assuming health, and if he continues to look threatful and he can do it against Arsenal, even if he doesn't score but looks like, oh my gosh, he just hit the post. Oh my gosh, he just blazed one over. I'm going to be like, oh man, okay, like he is in the numbers. Now, Brian would say numbers, he's got 3 shots on target and 3 goals. Okay, well that's not really banging the door down there. I don't know what Brendan Johnson's stats are, but I know this. Brendan Johnson all season hasn't gone more than 2 match weeks without giving a return.
Yeah.
That's wild. I honestly didn't realize he had gone on that kind of run. That's fantastic. No, I think the minutes, that's the toughest thing of all of this.
Even when he's come in as a sub.
Rashford played 90 minutes this week. He's played 90 minutes 4 times this season. That's fine. But like depending on where they're putting him, like I don't know how much he was doing that before anyway. A better podcast could tell you that. But no, like this season so far, it's not 90 minutes for him. So, but that's the thing. Like the guys that are going to do that are pretty few and far between. So if you really want the 90-minute guys, then that's where you want Jared Bowen. You want Bruno Fernandes.
Would you rather have Jared
Palmer.
Bowen, or would you rather have Brendan Johnson?
That's the tough call this week. Like talk about points dodging. That was another guy like Jared Bowen. Woulda, shoulda, coulda had so many scoring opportunities.
He's
created
doing his
so
best
many good
Darwin.
chances. Really? Well, no, he's not. That's the thing. Like
He's
even this week,
he's creating opportunities.
he was creating
for other
a lot.
people.
I think a total expected goal involvement of like 1.5 or something like that. Absolutely should have gotten something today.
So
and finishes with a 2.
I bailed on Jared Bowen. I've had him for the past like 3 or 4 game weeks because I kind of see the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, how is he not scoring? This is it. This is it. This is it. This is it. And I bailed on him. And I bailed on him for
Marcus Rashford.
Marcus Rashford.
Yeah. So
Look at you.
Look
at you.
The other thing
Why,
too.
real quick, why did you feel confident in that? A little bit of a bold move because that was before. Well, no, Rashford had.
I needed the money.
You did that going into this match week, so you're like Rashford. Rashford did it in 2 match weeks. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So I am saying I moved to him, but moved from Bowen to Rashford. But truth be told, I didn't actually move from Bowen to Rashford. I was able to finagle to where Bowen and Rashford are both playing this game week, but then it was an enabling me to actually move Bowen on for game week 15 and move Saka in.
Okay,
is really what it is.
Gotcha. You're trying to get part of the Holy Trinity.
So,
Got you. Okay.
Which is what happened. So, I guess moving on to night moves.
Yes, good call.
I moved on from Semenyo.
Whoa.
I still have him, and I'm trying to.
I moved on from Bowen.
Come back to West Ham in a second.
I moved on from Mbeumo.
Okay. Wow.
Did
you take a -12?
I did not. I had saved some transfers.
Really? Wow.
And split it up between game week 14, game week 15.
Good job.
And so I have now been able to move to a midfield of Saka, Salah, Fernandes, Rashford, and Swarme from Swarmare or whatever his name is from Leicester, who plays 90 minutes every match and gets a 2.
Great.
Ryan, how do you say that guy's name?
I don't know. I don't even.
Who is he even?
Swarmare.
Are you even close?
I don't know. Soumare.
Salmare.
Samare.
That's
Samare.
Samare. It's
Samare.
like that
Samare.
song.
That sounds right.
He's
Samare.
got 8 fantasy points on the season.
When the moon hits your eye. Is that?
It's
have they made
a
that
He
song?
Swarmare.
played 90 minutes. He played 90 minutes
No,
today.
seriously, is that a
That's
song?
almost-
Have they done that song for him?
Moon hits.
They should.
That's Amore.
That's
Come on, they have to.
Samore.
Depending on how you pronounce it.
If only we used to have a segment.
We used to do a lot of things.
How to say with Brian J, where we would next week learn how to say the Leicester Mystery
true.
Man's name.
Yeah.
If only there was a way.
Bubakari Surejurer. All that to say, that was my primary move. I didn't do anything else crazy. I think I'm happy with that. Again, I moved to Fernandez last week as well.
Double United midfield.
I don't think that's crazy.
I don't like Fernandez that much. I think you'd have been better off to go Brendan Johnson and Rashford.
Probably, given that I captained Fernandez last week.
I mean, honestly, I don't want to give you too much
he finished
flack
with a
there.
9, which is an 18.
Yeah. Yep.
Which
There's nothing wrong
is
with
fine. So I did catch that and got that. But as it stands right now.
All right, so what's your move this week? Since we're going into the weekend at this point, midweek is over.
Yeah, that was my big change. Where'd you go?
I think I'm out of battery.
Oh my gosh, it's a good
do
thing.
This.
Oh, let's get this one.
Yeah.
Plug that guy in. Plug this guy in. You can do this.
We still got it on audio. We're still there with the audio.
Allegedly.
Nobody
wants to look at him anyways.
All right. So Travis, going into this weekend, do you have a free transfer now, and are you going to make a move?
Yeah, and that's what I did. Was I got Saka in for this game week?
Okay, so Saka's in for the weekend.
Saka's in for the weekend.
Brian, have you made a move going into this current weekend? But you can also discuss what you did going into the mid-match week.
No, and that's why I think that I don't have to go too far into complaining about how much I hate like the template team, but I mean the whole thing was to get to a place where I finally now I've caught back up to having the midfield of Saka, Palmer, Salah,
right,
and then I've had Bruno Fernandes for a few weeks now. Holland finally gone, so yeah, I've got my one free transfer. The hot seat guys are defenders and a goalkeeper that matters.
Okay,
so I think that's the tough thing. I hate transferring goalkeepers. If I really wanted to, I mean, the easy move is to sell either Sells or Fabianski. Probably Sells to go from Sells to Sanchez. Sells to Sells to Raya. Sells to someone. I have enough money to do whichever.
Nice.
But
Travis,
probably the better move is to get rid of Greaves, Mikolenko, Gvardiol.
Right.
Those are the hot seat guys. Yeah.
Is your phone back on yet?
It can be.
Turn it on and then just go to your recent calls and click on the one where we were together on, and then it will join you right back in.
Oh, good.
Sorry, Travis. That's why I saw you grinding.
That's fine. I was trying to get him to join.
You were grinding on the thing. All right. I don't know which move I'm going to make yet.
Oh, jeez.
I think it's going to be. Well, I'll tell you. It's either going to be Mbumo for Rashford or Mbumo for Brendan Johnson, and I just don't know yet. That will be my move. Let's move right into captains, gents, as we need to wrap this up in the next few minutes. I have no reason to think.
You've ruled out Matoma?
That's a good point. I did bring that up earlier.
I think that Brighton really does have this ridiculous.
You're right.
Fixture
Thank you for
run
bringing
here.
that up. Thank you for bringing that up.
I think if you find out, if you see that Matoma's not starting for whatever reason, like if he does get a rest here, because he's got a dreaded yellow triangle. He was hobbled at the end of the last match, but like I think just saw prior to kickoff today that he was pictured in training. So it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to start,
right?
But definitely
he was
enough that he was training. He's been real good
with a 9 and 10 in his last 2 match weeks. Yeah, good overall stats. I think Matoma needs to be mentioned. I said this earlier, and I don't want to, at this point, we're not going to stay on it too long, but I just think Brighton needs to, at least me, I need to give Brighton a little bit more consideration, maybe across the board. Their upcoming schedule, they're 4th in the table. It just seems like you need to, before you make transfers, hey, give the Brighton Hove Albion a look, because they have some players, at least in Matoma, that is worth considering. It seems to be a hodgepodge in other places, and I'm not sure there's other guys, Travis, that I'd want to really go to or recommend.
Matoma, Pedro,
Pedro.
So
sorry, you're right.
They're at
and or Welbeck.
They're at Fulham next. Fulham for what it's worth, a top three defense for XG at home.
And
so
they've been quite good.
It's not that Fulham and Fulham hasn't necessarily looked like that. They've actually conceded 10 goals at home, despite being a top 3 for XG. So that's more goals than we're expected to concede. But whatever. The fact is, Fulham is a little bit tougher at home. However, after that, even with that, like Brighton has shown repeatedly, like this is it's not a clean sheet side. This is I think you expect them to get a goal or more in every game. And then after Fulham, it's Leicester, Palace, West Ham, Brentford, Villa. All of those defenses can be had. Yep. So that was a consideration for me going into this week. Was I almost did it, just a one single move, Mbumo to Matoma, but I didn't do it.
Interesting.
No, I like that.
Now, you mentioned you wanted to go back to West Ham. Did you get that out that you wanted to?
I'm just saying that West Ham, like Wan-Bissaka is your form defender because of three really good results there.
Ridiculous.
If you went to
even though we tongue in cheek said don't go to him.
I know.
You could have chased Emerson.
I still did it.
You could have chased Emerson's points prior to that. He had a 6, a 9, and a 5 in the 3 matches prior to this. Prior to the weekend. So. It's just that they blow. They're not good. The manager, is there a hotter seat for a manager than
under pressure? They've been fine though, right?
They're not good. Back-to-back blowouts. Understandable against Arsenal. Not understandable against Leicester. Like they were awful. Sad for anyone, Dave, who chased the West Ham defender points. You could have 3 weeks ago, and it would have been great for you.
That's the Ruud van Nistelrooy bounce.
I still think it's not going to be that bad. I like their next 4 matches.
Well, I don't, and the reason why, I'm just saying, like, if you're looking just at like the colors, again, they're better matchups than others, but they're home to Wolves. Why we are actively pursuing Strand Larson and Cunha for teams.
Right.
Wolves are going to score goals. Like West Ham defense is a defense to target. Then they're playing at Bournemouth. Why? That's not good. Like Bournemouth at home has been fantastic. Then they're playing home to Brighton. That's not good. Like none of those, like two of those are green, and they're not green for the West Ham defense.
But you would have said that against Newcastle too, and West Ham played really good against them.
I'm just saying that's a game out of all of these.
I know
you lucked into.
I'm looking for that.
I'm just saying for Wan-Bissaka, you got 2 goals from 3 shots on target from him
this
season. 2 goals from a total XG this season of 0.1. 2 goals is as many goals as he's ever scored before in his career. That's going back to 2017, 2018.
Maybe he's learned some new tricks.
The one thing with him, 19 touches in the opposition box for Aaron Wan-Bissaka this season since game week 3, because that's when he started. He's started every game since game week 3. 19 touches in the box is pretty good. He's in the top 12. He's tied with Rico Lewis for touches in the opposition box, which Rico Lewis was crushing that.
And is playing in midfield,
Right. So Emerson got benched today. Both guys, got the same amount of points as Wan-Bissaka did. Like both guys walk away with a 1 against Leicester. Leicester and Southampton are the two matchups where you're like, if they're gonna get something, it's those two, and those kind of bookend those bad matchups. And you got thrashed 3-1 today.
Yikes!
So
that was new.
I'm just
Ruud
saying,
van Nistelrooy Leicester.
Right. So that could be, but also scrappy Leicester, who keeps scoring goals against everybody. They've scored, I think, in every game. Isn't that? I'm pretty sure. Look at a Leicester player. I'm pretty sure they've scored in every game this season.
Really?
I don't believe you.
I think that's true.
They did not score against Manchester United.
Okay, so
they lost 3-0 in that match.
But that's it.
They beat Bournemouth 1-0. That's it.
Wild.
So they've been clean sheeted 1 time this season. I was going to say for West Ham, just that they've allowed the 4th most shots per game. They have the 4th highest XG against so far this season. They've allowed the 2nd most goals, 26 goals allowed for the season. Only Wolves are worse. and they have the third worst XG allowed per shot of any team in the season. Like West Ham defensively, like there's nothing like that clean sheet, because I started Fabianski a few weeks ago in that clean sheet game, I think just because I had to. Like that is the luckiest. That's luckier than a Flecken clean sheet. Like that is crazy luck.
It was Everton though, right? Or Newcastle?
I think that it was Newcastle. The difference is that Kudus is back for them. He played
Ball
today.
of knives, Travis.
I don't know,
Ball
man.
of knives.
Bowen, I still think like people went to him. He was excellent today. He really was. It turned to nothing, and then they get a consolation goal from Fulkrug at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So whatever. I just think that's not like a. Yeah, West Ham is not like they feel like no priority. If you were going to go for someone, Bowen would be the one guy.
Sure, I agree.
If you're a complete sicko, Kudus is your guy. But I'd say Bowen for normal folks. Anyway.
Ball of
Sickos
knives.
FC.
Ball
All right, let's
of
talk
knives.
captains.
There's no way I'm. It just stays on
Holland. Oh wait,
It stays on Mo Salah. Mo Salah.
Nah, Cole Palmer.
against Everton.
Mo Salah. Mo Salah.
Unless Palmer gets injured. Coming up for the next game?
15. Yeah, game week 15.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So this past week is
14's
already done
done.
and dusted.
Nothing you can do about it. Who'd you have it on?
I have it on
Salah.
Salah at Everton. I don't care if it's
For 14, Palmer against Southampton, not a bad shout. 15, Palmer against Tottenham, still not a bad shout. But I still like
I might still do it.
Salah against Everton.
I see what you're saying.
Interesting.
Sorry, Travis. I answered wrong. Yes, I have Salah this week at Newcastle. I think you asked me that. I answered incorrectly.
Nah, it's all good.
For next week,
For the week for 15,
for 15,
Saka at Fulham.
it's just hard.
Salah
at the
at
moment.
Everton is a pick, man.
Hard
That's a pick.
at the moment to just go away from Salah when you look at his results. I don't know. I don't know about 15. I need to make a move. Well, okay, so last week I said, I'm probably going to leave it on Saka. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Liverpool's going to crush City. Screw it.
You
I'm
did
going with Mo Salah. And that's what I did.
Nice.
Now, along in the camp and along with the thread that Brian was alluding to earlier, Saka was the best pick this past week with an 18.
It would have been nice.
So
Would have been
we
nice.
will see Saka at Fulham on the weekend. That's gonna make me say and I don't know what's gonna happen with that. It's either gonna be Salah or Saka.
All right.
I can't seem to nail that down at the moment. And the only reason why I'm flinching a little bit, Travis, it's been a while since Liverpool have just hammered Everton for whatever reason.
Yep. I don't know if they've won at Goodison
it just feels like a
years.
like maybe a 1-0 or 1-1 game. And only for the reason that it's a Merseyside derby. Liverpool is light years better than Everton at the moment, but that fixture, for whatever reason, always seems to be very close.
You want two crazy XG stats?
Sure.
Courtesy of the XG Philosophy. Find them there on X, at XG Philosophy.
Nice.
Two things. Travis, do you believe this? How much more XG are Liverpool creating than their opponents in each game this season under Slot compared to last season with Klopp?
0.4.
That's a great guess. Is it? I don't know.
I would say less. They're actually creating less XG this season than with Klopp.
Dave's right. It doesn't feel like that, but last
Really?
season under Klopp, they were plus 1.27 XG compared to their opponents. This season under Slot, they're plus 1.26.
Yeah, but their defense is better this year. And or their possession's better.
Their defense is definitely better.
Last season, that was not the case.
Defensively, like last
They
season,
couldn't find cover. McAllister has way adjusted better, and or Gravenberch. They both have grown up a little bit. McAllister's more of a veteran, but they understand their roles with Slot better than they're performing their roles better with Slot than they were last year with Klopp.
Interesting.
And that's the difference, in my opinion.
The bow on the West Ham package is that for XG today, Leicester had a total XG of 1.11.
Oh, my gosh.
West Ham 3.37.
That hurts.
And the final score, of
was
course,
3-1 the other way.
3-1 the other way.
Oh, my
So
gosh.
That hurts.
Wow.
Sorry, Lopetegui.
Wow.
He's got to be done.
That's
right?
crazy.
Yeah, the news was
Yeah, he's got to be done. after today.
Conceição from Porto, I believe.
Oh,
That's who they've had their eye on for a while.
okay.
So can't imagine if
Portuguese managers coming in hot.
Yeah, you got to think they want a new manager that matters. West Ham have strong belief.
I'm sure they do.
And of course, you're missing.
They have a ball of knives and Paqueta.
You got some good players.
They do. Absolutely.
They do have a lot
All
of
right.
good players.
Travis,
Anyways.
who are you captaining quickly?
Salah.
Okay. Brian.
I don't know. I might stay on.
Saka?
I might hope for a
Are you staying on
complete goal.
Palmer?
I might stay on a goal fest for Chelsea and Spurs.
That's not a bad. That's not
Could
horrible.
happen.
Absolutely could happen.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Can I give you one more guy?
No.
Last guy.
Just that Mateta, Jean-Philippe Mateta is.
I like that
he's
guy. Are you giving him a little run?
Just saying he's compiling.
He's a compiler?
Look, he's sort of in and out of the lineup game weeks 1 through 8. So if you just take a look at it, you can see game weeks 1 to 8. It took a minute for him to come off of the Olympics, so it took a minute to adjust to starting back in the lineup. But he has started and played 90 minutes every week since game week 9. Okay, since game week 9 among forwards, Mateta has taken. First of all, he's 27 points since game week 9, tied with
Erling Haaland.
Strand Larson, who everyone is rushing headlong to get into their team. 27 points, is tied for 7th most among forwards, tied with Strand Larson. He has taken 18 shots, which is second only to Haaland. 7 shots on target is third most. 14 shots in the box is tied for second, only trailing Erling Haaland. He has had the craziest one, 8 big chances to score, which is tied for second with Johan Wissa, behind only Erling Haaland among forwards. The Crystal Palace schedule for the next 3 matches,
Not good.
Manchester City, at Brighton, home Arsenal, not great. Then, after Arsenal, I say eases up considerably. Bournemouth, Southampton, Chelsea, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford. You have Eze back in the starting lineup. He's played. He was positive today. Got the assist on the Mateta goal.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, hopefully, as long as Eze stays fit. I'm just saying his price makes him tricky.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The only issue that we've had with Mateta all season long is he's too freaking expensive.
Yep.
You're not wrong. Like, all that stuff matters, but his price makes it so much harder to move in that direction.
Just that today, put new man back on the field. Greaves just ran right at him and put some feet to him that put Greaves on the ground, and it was nice. And I'm just saying,
would you rather have Cunha at 7-1 or Mateta at 7-2?
I'm just thinking, if the fixtures turn for somebody else at that point, you've seen it. I'm saying, Mateta was an absolute essential at the end of last season. He crushed the end of last season. It's not like you haven't seen it before. He can be really good in this team. Of course, it's not exactly the same situation because of personnel. However, he did score today, and like I said, he's 7th. That's higher than I would have guessed. In the last since game week 9, I don't know that I would have guessed that he was in 7th. So just a guy that I feel like that's one of those names that he's kind of off the radar, or maybe not high on anyone's radar, who actually by numbers he's way, way up there and putting in the getting the performances too occasionally.
Awesome, gentlemen. Well said, Brian, Travis. Excellent pod. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Hopefully, Arsenal will stomp on some United face tomorrow. Hopefully City will find a way to lose again, because we all can revel in the fact that City continues to lose matches, but we also know that will not last forever. Those of us who don't own Erling Haaland can hope that kind of continues, as we don't have to stress about that. All right, gentlemen, well done for the FPL America podcast. This is David Smith. Until next time.